G'day guys, hope you're all well. Welcome to the when to reduce your calories if you're hit a plateau or if you need to continue to lose weight. So before we get started on the exact do this, do that, if this, if that, I just want to quickly run you through who I am. So I am a transformation coach, as you can see. These are all client transformations that I do. I specialize in helping people lose weight. I have lost over 50 kilos myself and also kept it off for close to 20 years now. A lot of my clients tend to be female clients, but it works exactly the same for male clients as well. And what we're about to take you through is pretty much the exact process on how I would usually assess someone's reduction in calories if we need to go further in calories to keep losing weight. And yes, this here was me. So as you can see, over on the left side, 15 years old, lost a lot of weight, gained a bit of muscle, and now here we are, still helping people lose weight today. So, when to reduce calories further? Get this question quite a lot, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. The questions that usually come through is, I'm in a plateau, I need to continue to lose weight, but should I do more cardio? Should I reduce my calories? Etc. etc. So we're going to go through a sort of a yes/no scenario and give you some guidance. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to have an accurate calorie count. So I'm going to assume that you've been losing weight somewhat steadily, let's say for roughly the last 6 to 12 weeks. So you've been losing weight consistently, a half a kilo to a kilo-ish per week, 1 pound to 2 pounds per week-ish, roughly in that ballpark. People stop losing weight, then they freak out. All right, don't freak out. I'm here to help. So the first thing you are going to do is go back and be 100% honest with yourself. Were you 100% militant, accurate with your calorie tracking and your activity that week? Meaning that I would argue calories are the most important thing. So were your calories 100% tracked? Now, before you say yes, 100% militant tracked means that you cooked all of your food yourself. You weighed all of your food on the kitchen scale. And I'm talking everything. The sugar that goes in your coffee, the Werther's Original that you had, the Tim Tam biscuit that you got, the Oreo cookie that you had, you weighed it on a scale. If no, you were not accurate. All right, as much as that sucks to hear. But I'm here to help. All right, I'm going to tear the Band-Aid off. Were you militant accurate? Majority of people, no. Myself included. I'm not blaming or pointing fingers here. Usually, if you aren't losing that weight that week, you've been losing weight pretty consistently, you haven't lost a substantial amount of weight, militant accuracy has probably gone out the window a little bit and you're probably eyeballing food a little bit. So, first step I'm going to recommend is you're going to go back for one more week and you're going to perform perfect militant precision adherence for that entire week. No eat out foods, no social events. Everything is home cooked food, weighed on the kitchen scale, measured in grams. It goes into your MyFitnessPal or whichever calorie tracking app that you use before you eat that food. Do that for another week. Now, 99.9% of the time, people end up losing weight. Almost every single time. You could even potentially stretch this out to 2 weeks, because sometimes there is just random off weeks where you just don't lose as much weight. But at least one more week. Now, if you've done that, so you've gone back, you've tracked another week, militant precision accuracy, you also have to take into account your progress. So, did you lose between 0.5 and 1% of your body weight? And or any key measurement site losses. So within my coaching programs, I heavily emphasize waist measurements. If you've lost weight or you lost measurements and or both, so as long as either measurements have gone down or your weight has gone down, it doesn't have to be both, keep going as you are. All right. Everything stays the same, keep going. All right. Some weeks you may not lose weight on the scale, but your measurements will go down. Some weeks your weight will go down, but your measurements won't, and that's okay. We're looking for an indicator that we're heading in the right direction. Now, let's say after you've had your militant week and nothing has changed. Everything was exactly the same. Food wise was really, really good. There's a few things that I would want you to take into account. All right. Did any of these other factors change during that time? So for women, menstrual cycle. How close are you to getting your period? All right. So this can be a big influence in terms of water weight fluctuations, hormonal fluctuations. Men obviously don't need to worry too much about this because it's a women's issue. Are you due for your period? So usually that can mask weight loss. Did your salt intake change? How was your sleep quality for that last week? Sometimes people just have a really bad, rough week of sleep, and that can raise cortisol, which can cause some water retention. Was your sleep really good? All right, or at least regular? How is your bowel regularity? Have you been going to the toilet like normal? All right. Is your fiber consistent? Is your fluid being regular? So did you have a couple of days where you're really thirsty, then you stopped drinking water? Things like that. Is there any high stress going on in your life? Did the boss just load a huge amount of work onto your plate and then you're staying back crazy hours and then that's affecting your sleep? Therefore, you're not getting the expected losses on the scale because of, again, cortisol, water weight retention, etc. Sleep changes, any routine changes. So, for example, your activity had to change that week, so you weren't doing as many steps. Your training days were moved around. Your social eating events were moved around slightly, etc. All of these changes can make a difference on the scale in your measurements. When you measured makes a big difference. So when I advise clients, I like to say to clients, when you measure yourself, do it on the same day, same time each week, preferably before any social events. So for most people, it's either going to be a Friday or a Saturday morning where they do their main measurements, at least for body measurements. So when they do their main measurements, if you were to go out for pizza on Friday night and you usually do your measurements on Saturday morning, that could blow out your measurements because of all the extra carbs and sodium that you otherwise wouldn't normally consume, right? So don't do your measurements on the Saturday morning, do it on the Friday morning before you go out for your pizza, even if you account for the same amount of calories. Just that the sodium and the carb intake, if it's a lot higher than your usual, but it's the same calorie count, can still fluctuate your water and measurements, right? Your scale weight and your measurements. Did you get a new scale or measuring tool? So sometimes people's scales break and then they realize that they've been measuring 2 kilos lighter than they actually are. Right? Things like that. Very rare, but it can happen. All right, so did any of these major disruptions happen that week? Yes, everything stays the same. Keep going as you are for at least one more week and fix the issues that happened. So if you weren't going to the toilet regularly, it could be a fiber issue. Make sure you get your fiber regular again. Are you just about to get your period? Then just wait another week until you're at least a week past your period and then see if your weight normalizes or drops. In my experience in training quite a lot of women in the last 14 years, that's primarily my client base, what tends to happen is premenstrual, so just before you get your period, don't want to come across as mansplaining, but just before you get your period, you'll get the period bloating. And then during the first 3 to 4 days, it'll be relatively weight stable or spike up. And then towards the end of your period, when you stop bleeding, and as you get towards when you completely stop bleeding, you'll actually get a double weight drop. So if you stuck to your calories during that time and your weight was fluctuating up and down or even higher, any weight loss results that didn't show during that time usually will double up the following week. So if you're meant to lose a half a kilo, a half a kilo, and a half a kilo, usually it will be a half a kilo, nothing, 1 kilo. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's say all of this was perfect. You didn't lose any weight. You did your perfect macro tracking. Me personally, I would like to see you repeat this again for at least another 1 to 2 more weeks, as it could just be an off week. Just sometimes it happens. Just for some reason, the universe just says, today I will not give you the results that you are expecting. All right? Just see it out for another 1 to 2 more weeks. Again, usually things will start to pick up and or drop. Now, if you've done all this would usually take about 3 weeks for most people. Tracked your calories accurately, perfect milliton precision. You did that for basically 2 to 3 weeks. None of this changed. Everything was home cooked, tracked, meticulous. no menstrual cycle issues, everything else is really good, no major stresses, etc. What do you do? There's a few different ways you can go about it. You can either A, reduce calories more. You could B, increase your cardio. C, you could do a mix of both. My personal preference is going to be a reduction in calories. I would recommend reducing calories by approximately 100 and or about 10%. It just depends on how low your calories currently are. If you're sort of dieting on the high calorie side, so let's say your maintenance calories is about, I don't know, your maintenance calories is 2,500 and you've been dieting on 2,000 calories. You can go down 10%. It's going to be a couple of 100-calorie drop. It's going to get you into a really good weight loss groove again, and you probably won't need to do another drop for a little while. If you're already on very low calories, let's say you're dieting on like 1,100 calories, you're a really small female, you just don't have much wiggle room. You might drop calories by 50 to 100, maybe, and you might increase your steps by about 2,000 steps per day. Just that way you don't have to go too low in calories. That's going to start to sacrifice micronutrients, your protein intake, etc. It depends on you as a person how low, if you can keep reducing calories or if you have to increase your activity or both. Generally speaking, I don't really like having people go below 1,000 calories. It's very low anyway. But I would usually argue for calorie drops first if it's feasible. If it's not, you can do a mix of both, reduce your calories a little bit, increase your activity a little bit. If there's really just no room or wiggle room for reducing calories further, add in extra cardio and in the form of just extra steps per day. As a general rule of thumb, I would always just say to people, try and get about 8 to 10,000 steps per day anyway. But let's say you've just been getting in the bare minimum 4,000 or 5,000 steps. Add an extra 2,000 steps after your training sessions. Let's say you're training 3 times a week in the gym. Cool. Rinse and repeat. So do that. See how your weight loss goes. I would probably stick to that for at least another 2 to maybe 3 weeks and see how your results go. All right. Now, if you've been dieting for a really long time, it might be time, or it might be worth considering taking a diet break. And a long time, I would usually argue that's about 4 to maybe 7 months worth of consistent dieting. You've lost pretty much majority of your weight during that time. You've done a really good dent into your fat loss goals. You might have the last, 5, maybe 10 kilos to go. Have a break. When you go on a diet break, it is paramount that you increase your calories to maintenance, or at least your expected maintenance, and you want to increase your carbs fairly high. This is what's going to offset the metabolic adaptation that takes place. You'd probably want to sit there for a minimum, so I would say absolutely no less than 2 weeks, preferably closer to a month on the minimum side, and then go back into another dieting phase. But by this point, honestly, you're probably looking at in terms of body fatness, you're probably looking like you're pretty close to getting abs lean by this point in terms of like needing a diet break. If you are still like 30-40% body fat, you don't need a diet break. You just need to stick to your calories, as harsh as that sounds. All right, guys, that is it. That is my how to reduce your calories, or when to reduce your calories, and the process I would usually follow with most clients. Now, obviously, I do this for a living. I help people lose weight sustainably, and majority of clients do tend to keep the weight off. If you have any questions or any concerns, post them in the comments. If you feel like you want to reach out for coaching, where I actually help you one-to-one, I do your training, your program, etc. for you. I check in with you weekly. There will be a form in the description below wherever you're watching this video where you can apply for coaching, or at least inquire, and I'll have a chat to you about the pricing and what's involved. But I hope you found some value in this. If you did, again, please comment, because I get people who watch, thousands of people who watch videos, but no one ever comments. Even just a simple yes was helpful, no, I'm unsure of this, post them in the comments, and I'll see how many questions I can get back and answer. Now, if you have any other topics you want me to cover, please post them in the comments as well. And that is all for today's video. All right, guys, stick to your calories. I'll see you soon.